Hey guys, so I've had some viewers leave some comments asking how to get rid of snipe when they're using a wood planer such as this DeWalt one that I have. And there's one thing that will get rid of at least 95% of all the snipe. And I'm gonna give you that tip along with a few other ones to reduce the rest of it. First, snipe is when your planer or jointer basically leaves a divot or a deeper cut in the trailing end or leading end of a board that you're trying to plane. So it'll be perfectly fine, and then on the end or the beginning end it'll basically dig in and ruin the whole thing. Because of snipe, a lot of people will leave an extra inch on either end so that they can just cut that off so they don't even have to deal with it. But there is a way that you can get rid of pretty much all your snipe. And the number one way is to make sure that your planer infeed and outfeed tables, the ends of them and the bed, are all in a perfect plane together. And I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so first off, you're going to need a straight edge like this 48-inch ruler that I have here. And you want it to be long enough to go all the way across from the front and the back of your infeed tables there. You also always, when you're using a straight edge as a reference, make sure that it's straight by using another reference surface such as this level that I have here. And you just check them against each other and make sure that you don't see any light gaps between the two surfaces. If you don't, well, then most likely they're both nice and straight. And that's the case with this. So what you want to do is on both sides, you'll put this all the way back across the front and the back. And make sure that on the bed here, where your straight edge is perfectly touching and there's no light gaps underneath it. So the way you would do that is basically to shine a light on the opposite side, and if you see any light leaks, then you probably have an infeed or an outfeed table that's either too high or too low. And then you're going to want to do the same thing on the end of the infeed and outfeed table. You want this to be perfectly flush and touching with the straight edge, and the whole bed to be perfectly flush and touching, as long as the outfeed table, the end of the outfeed table. A lot of people assume that items such as this wood planer or table saws or jointers are all set up from the factory and ready to go. But this is actually not true in my experience. Generally speaking, you're going to have to calibrate it when you get it, and the more time you take getting the calibration right initially, the less time later on down the line you're going to have to deal with mistakes and issues and things like snipe. Now, the way, if you do figure out that your infeed and outfeed table is too high, on this one, like a lot of them, you have these little studs here, or these bolts here, that screw in and out to raise the height. So you would loosen the locking nut here and back that off. And then you can screw this bolt in and out, and you may have to do this several times, going around to all four bolts here to get it perfect, and set it down and measure it or check it and check for light leaks and make sure it's perfectly flat and flush. And it does take some time, but I'm telling you, you're gonna have a lot less heartaches down the line. Okay, once you get that bolt at the right height, then you're just going to turn this locking nut and hold the bolt in the right spot and turn the locking nut so that it doesn't move on you. I'm trying to do this in a way that you can see. It's kind of difficult at the moment. All right, and get that nice and tight. because this thing's going to vibrate quite a bit and you don't want the vibration to back it off. So make sure that these locking nuts are all tight once you get it dialed in. And I can tell you that this works. It's very difficult to get snipe once you have the infeed and outfeed table all perfectly aligned with the bed. I even tried to induce some snipe for this example of it, and I couldn't do it. I actually had to bust out the old hand power planer to do some snipe on there with it, because I could not force snipe, even pulling and pushing on the wood, because it works. I'm telling you, it works. Try it. Next thing you're going to want to do is, whenever you're using the planer, make sure if you have a locking head that you lock it, because that's also going to help, okay? The third thing, make sure that you don't take off too much at a time. Honestly, I take off less than a 32nd of an inch at a time, maybe a 64th of an inch, okay? If you're trying to dig in too much and do too much work at once, there's a good chance that you're going to up your chances of snipe. Remember that woodworking is an exercise in patience, and the more patient you are, the better results you're going to have. And the final thing, which most people know this part, but when you're feeding the wood through, you're going to want to support the end of it so that it goes in straight. And then when it comes out the other side, you always want to support it in the plane of the infeed and outfeed table. So you don't want it pulling down in the front, especially if you've got a long piece. You don't want it pulling down, and you don't want it pushing down on the back end if it gets sent off the back and then the weight of it's pulling it up into the blades. That's going to cause some snipe. So now I'm going to get rid of this snipe that I induced in this board and just show you that there's no issue with snipe once you get this figured out. All right, check that out. Don't know if you can see that, but there's zero snipe on this board. Okay? None. Well, guys, I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please go down below, hit a thumbs up, consider leaving a comment and subscribing. Have a good day.